Not so much of an intro this week. I hope everyone's doing alright. You came for part 2, so let's jump right in. In 1960, Peng King-pech became the flyweight champion. He was awarded, soon to be axed, NBA title. When the NBA ended due to corruption, the WBA took its place. All current world champs were given the title, including Peng. In Peng's fourth defense of the flyweight title and first defense of the WBA title, he went on to fight little-known 26-1 fighting Harada of Japan, who was 19 at the time and unranked. This was seen as a massive mismatch. The WBA refused to sanction the bout. However, King-pech is a legitimate champion of the weight class, so he really did not need a new organization's approval for this championship bout and still went forward. Since the fight was still going forward, the WBA will state that they will not sanction the fight. However, if King-pech loses to Harada, they will recognize Harada as a WBA champion, since this fight is still for the flyweight world title and the lineal title at that. Peng was shocked by the young challenger's speed, strength, and power, which had caught him completely off guard. King-pech was unable to get a clear footing and rhythm in the fight. Harada was just too much that night, and he was able to pull off the massive upset, stopping King-pech in the 11th round to become the flyweight world champion. Before we get back to the video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell because a lot of viewing is not subscribed. It really helps the rest of these subscribers view this video. YouTube has literally shadow banned this page. They are killing it right now, to where subscribers are not informed till days, weeks, or at times never that a new upload has dropped. Hopefully things will be better next year. Thanks for the support, thanks for sticking around to the end, and let's get back to the video. Nontshinga would pick up the IBF title back in 2022. He will make his first mandatory defense in July of 2023. Since he had already fought his mandatory, his next fight will be against 23-4 Adrian Curiel, which was somehow made a title fight. I've checked the IBF rankings throughout that whole calendar year and the months leading to the fight. Adrian was unranked, then magically popped up at number 12 in the ranks in June. This is the Ring Magazine rankings at the time. He's not there in the top 10. I did go ahead and check if he was ranked by the WBC, which he was at number 16, which would not make him qualified to fight for a world title under that organization. The beauty about the lower weight classes is you never know what you're going to get. Records can be very misleading. Anything below flyweight, for the most part, everyone will end up fighting each other at one point, which would leave fight fans caught off guard. The best example is Roman Gonzalez's first fight against Juan Francisco Estrada. Juan was unknown. He fought on small TV Azteca cards, and the only people that vouch that this fight is far from a mismatch is people who attended his fights and the small majority who tuned into his fights. This matchup here is no different. The fight would start off as your usual Nontshinga fight. Very sharp start by the champ, then in the second it would be a complete 180. Adrian would begin to apply more pressure effectively, cutting off the ring to where Nontshinga seemed to be not able to get off the ropes. The body tack was really bothering his rhythm. Then just before the end of the first minute of the second round, Adrian would floor Nontshinga with a massive overhand right, Marcos Maidana style. No way he was going to make the count, and the ref waved it off within seconds, giving Nontshinga his first loss, and Adrian now the new champ in the weight class.
This from Curiel. Whoa! Tremendous right hand from Curiel. He timed it as Nontshinga was making his way around the ring, and the referee has waved it off long before completing the count.
This is one of the rare cases of an early fighter's fight being a cherry, because the rules seem to be a lot different in America. If a fighter has multiple losses in a row, they are usually, if not every time, given a medical suspension. So a lot of these valuable guys whose job is to lose will be tossed over to a fighter they're supposed to win against so they can continue to be thrown to prospects. In the UK, I don't think there's any such limit unless that fighter is brutally knocked out, obvious cuts, or injuries. UK prospect John Robertson will begin his career fighting those type of fighters I mentioned, making his pro debut against the growing local legend, 7 wins, 108 losses, Daryl Sharp, followed up in his second fight against the 6 wins and 40 losses, Edgar Sneeds. So his third fight will be against Patryk Polaczyk of Poland. He has 2 wins and 18 losses. He will go on a 5-fight losing streak, have a fight in Chechnya, win, then go on another 11-fight losing streak, fly back to Chechnya, pick up another win against a questionable fighter, and then come back to the UK. I'm guessing since Patryk is not a national where he fights mostly, he has to at least get 1 win here and there in between these losing streaks so he won't face any boxing license issues. So after the Chechnya run, he will go on a 2-fight losing streak before being matched up against John Jake Paul Robertson. Well, the fight will come to a crappy start for John, as he would get cut towards the end of the first round. Looks to be from numerous headbutts from Patryk. Every time they get in on the inside, he is bobbing away, which led to a warning by the ref. A bit too late, as this was happening the whole round prior to that. Clearly bothered by the cut and off rhythm, John was getting tagged by Patryk. John will have a better third, however, he is just not throwing enough, especially to earn the respect from Patryk, as he is just roughing him up every time when Robertson initiates a hold, as well as getting some headbutts in. So you have a guy who's holding too much and a guy who's headbutting too much. Who gets penalized first? Yep, Robertson would get penalized for holding at a crucial time in the 4th round, but that wouldn't really matter, as all judges gave every round to Patryk, resulting in Robertson to earn his first defeat. Peter McGrail is an undefeated prospect from the United Kingdom. After successful 2023 to end the year off, he will fly over to make his US debut. The opponent, O'Quinn from Detroit. O'Quinn on paper had an attractive record that was tailored to make McGrail look good. O'Quinn had been knocked down twice in one fight, which resulted in a draw on his resume against a fighter who was 2-3. Another fight he won, he was dropped again in. One fight later, which resulted in his first loss of his career, he would get dropped 3 times in the first round before being waved off. It's easy to say he has chin problems, however, I believe it's more of a defensive problem rather than a chin problem. Anyone who gets hit that clean is going to be in some serious trouble. Sort of a head scratcher, since some of the greatest defensive boxers and defensive minds that cultivated boxing talent hailed from the Midwest. Alright, the fight. The fight would start off as expected when you take the scouting report into account. McGrail will get the early knockdown in the 2nd round. To O'Quinn's credit, despite the defensive lapse, his feet was tied up. Still got hit clearly, however, the knockdown was more just balance than anything else.
Whoa, down he goes! 3, 4, clean left hand, right on the chin of O'Quinn.
In the 4th round, he will leave himself open and get dropped. O'Quinn, actually seeing the shot before getting dropped, will get up with ease and show no signs of being hurt, which concludes it's more of a defensive issue than a chin issue.
Boxer, he's been as you say that, down goes O'Quinn again! And maybe on a different level as a puncher, that was a strength.
The difference in class and skill is very apparent, as McGrail is just picking his shots, rather patient and comfortable where he has his opponent, but maybe a little too comfortable.
Chris, I know there's a certain level of competition that's in the ring with McGrail right now, but this guy looks like a world champion already.
He got O'Quinn on the ropes looking to score big. O'Quinn would parry McGrail's attack. O'Quinn would hit him with the perfect punch, right on the jaw, right on that nerve, which would completely put McGrail away.
6 inches through the target.
Never quit! Never stop punching! You never know what can happen! Do you believe this? Jericho O'Quinn! Unbelievable! One of the best comebacks of 2023!
This is really amazing right here. This is the threading the needle type shot here. If it lands, it's over. Sometimes it looks pretty, sometimes it looks absolutely ugly and awkward, like when Tony Thompson knocked out David Price. Since this is rather recent, we may actually see a rematch next year. I'm excited to see how this will turn out, because if O'Quinn was able to improve fundamentally, this will be a fun rematch for the books. Alan Garcia, lightweight prospect who really had a busy schedule in 2024. Since I can check the ranks on his resume, pretty much all his opponents are ranked within the number 508 at the lowest to above number 1000 at the highest. Fighters that he obliterated were close to the 1000 world ranks, and fighters who came close to number 500 in the world ranks he took to the scorecards. He would fight Wilfredo Flores, who is ranked number 508, and take him to the scorecards. His next fight will be a step downward against a fighter who is ranked number 812 in Mexico, where he will get the stoppage victory. His next opponent on primetime TV will be against the 15-3 Ricardo Fernandez, which Garcia, who is at number 255, and Fernandez at number 288. Low risk, high reward. The reward being this will put Garcia up in the ranks at the low risk expense, because out of 15 wins, Fernandez only has 1 knockout. So what can possibly go wrong here? Now, it could have been some bad instructions coming into the 4th round. Unfortunately, I can't show you the footage because I will receive a third-party claim by a party who absolutely abuses the copyright tool and does not believe in fair use. Unlike the sponsor of this video, Fernandez had adjusted to Garcia's speed and was beginning to time Garcia when he came in on the ropes. Garcia begins to land less effectively, a lot that was glanced or parried away. He's still winning the round based on punch count and the lack of offense from Fernandez, despite whenever Fernandez does throw, you can see the holes where he can land, where that became apparent in the 5th round. A perfectly timed shot by Fernandez that Garcia would not see at all that floors him to the canvas. Garcia would make an attempt to get up. Raul Caiz Jr. gave the prospect 1 extra second when he turned around to instruct Fernandez to stay in the opposite corner. Now, if he would have pulled off a Marlon Wright when Andrade practically knocked out Butte, he probably would have made the count.
So he needs to buy time, so he turns around in one of the most contemptible exhibits of hometown refereeing I've ever seen. Maybe the worst I've ever seen.
This would be Garcia's first loss. This is definitely one of the candidates for Knockout of the Year. You know what's awesome? This video sponsor, DAZN, a network that respects content creators, a network that understands fair use, a network that doesn't abuse the copyright tool. So the good people at DAZN got a big fight coming up, and I am happy enough to promote it. The undisputed, undefeated heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk is facing the former WBC and lineal heavyweight champion Tyson Fury in a highly anticipated rematch. With the link provided in the description, you can purchase this pay-per-view, and due to this promotion, you will be given a 7-day free trial with no subscription required. Link is in the description. This is a must-see fight, a fight for the history books. Usyk versus Fury 2 reignited. Thanks for sticking around, and let's get back to the video. Really, you can say all the fights leading up to this was a cherry pick. James Braddock was seen as a done fighter by the boxing public and the general population. With the Great Depression in full effect, impoverishing pretty much all of America, including Braddock himself, this made Braddock's comeback to the sport to support his family at all costs. After recovering from a broken right hand, he would face the 5-1 Corn Griffin. Braddock was given a 2 days notice. He was seen as a washed up fighter by people in boxing, and they were just throwing him one last bone of $250. With the expectations he was going to fall and make their young fighter look good, as this was considered a tune-up fight. Braddock stops Corn in the 3rd round. The next fight, he was up against the 8-2 favorite John Henry Lewis, which he will beat Lewis on points. Braddock was then matched up against number 3 ranked Art Lasky, who just came off a loss to number 1 ranked Steve Hamas. Drew to number 5 ranked Steve Levinsky. Lasky was the 3-1 betting favorite. A win here would keep Lasky in the mix for a title shot. Lasky would lose in the scorecards. The odds on all these fights and the fact that Braddock was winning really made him into the people's champion. A lot of people made some good money betting on Braddock. Now keep in mind, Braddock, according to the February Ring Magazine rankings, he was not ranked in the top 10. The number one contender for 1935 is Steve Hummus. Bear was a younger, much more talented fighter who was quite popular before he even became champ.
Also proved that he was a great fighter, a third gentleman in and out of the ring, and one of the greatest fighters the American public has ever had, if not the greatest. And I predicted Max to be champion for a long time to come.
Braddock was the low risk, high reward, and no one would complain that it is a cherry because Braddock was supported by the people. Max came in as a 10-1 betting favorite. Braddock would seal the epic quadfecta of upsets and beat Bear to become the heavyweight champion. I can only imagine how much money people made betting on Braddock all the way through. When Rocky Marciano became the champ, his town threw him a parade because they made so much money betting on him.
Newtown had a new identity, and Brockton proudly celebrated its native son. Thousands of the city's working-class citizens had gambled it all on Marciano. Homes, cars, and bank accounts. This was their thank you.
I don't know if Braddock got a parade, but in 2018, he got a massive statue crafted in his honor. The statue was made by a guy named Zeno Frudakis. That is a fine piece of artistry. They should have gotten that man to do the Dwayne Wade statue, because that is, oh boy. In 1975, John Stracey would dethrone and retire the great Jose Napales in the 7th round to become the WBC welterweight champion. After one defense, he would face unknown and unranked Carlos Palomino. This really requires no further context of me digging to prove elsewise, when the matchmaker himself admitted that this was a cherry pick. Matchmaker Mickey Duff would say this was a voluntary defense by Stracey, not a command one. And to be perfectly honest, we picked what we took to be a competitive, sealable, but least dangerous opponent for Stracey. We were never more wrong. End quote. Stracey would quickly find out him and his team had heavily underestimated choosing to fight Carlos, as he was just taking whatever he threw at him and just chipping away round by round. Relentless pressure was just too much. Despite nearly being at the finish line, a brutal body attack would send Stracey to the canvas. Despite getting right up, the attack to the body was relentless by Palomino, where you can see him wincing in pain. In due time, the fight was waved off, and Palomino, now the welterweight champion.
Through this round, he'll never make it. He's got him again, and Sid Nathan says enough. And in round 12, Stracey loses the world title.
I know this is a meme at this point. Well, especially recently with all the fighters from the UK having some of the worst luck against fighters from Mexico, but I didn't think this here would be some of the most earliest lore of a little known fighter from Mexico traveling across the Atlantic to score an upset victory over a UK world champion, contender, or blue chip prospect. Stracey may be the guy that started this curse. This guy literally Detroit Lions an entire region. I'm going to leave this up here and provide you with plenty of context, and I'll leave it up to the viewers to decide if this is a cherry pick or not, given the context. This was always a matchup people were wanting to see for a while. Really began to pick up at the end of the decade in 2019. Here's some home video of Haney in Ryan's locker room after the do no win. In 2021, Ryan would become the WBC interim champion against Luke Campbell. Haney, before the Lomachenko versus Lopez fight, was promoted to the WBC champion, as Lomachenko was made the franchise champion so he could pursue an undisputed unification. He would make 2 defenses prior to Ryan becoming the WBC interim champ. Shortly after Ryan became the interim champ, he decided to take a break from boxing due to his mental health. Shortly after Ryan had made his comeback in 2022 in the lead up to the Kambosos versus Haney fight, the WBC ordered the Isaac Cruz versus Ryan Garcia fight for the interim title to set up a Haney fight. Well, the issue here is you have a PBC Al Haymon fighter and a Golden Boy fighter. These groups don't do business with each other. There has to be a lot on the line for them to come to the table and make an almost even agreement. It's just political theater. The belt organization is well aware them ordering such a fight between rival promotions won't do anything. It's just something that can be documented to say, hey, we tried. And our hands are a bit tied right now. Haney wins against Kambosos, becomes undisputed, has a rematch, then goes on to fight Lomachenko. and a shocking surprise, Ryan agrees to every nonsensical demand from Heyman PBC to fight Gervonta Davis. This fight would smash the viewership of Haney versus Lomachenko. According to Dan Raphael, the fight only received 150K pay-per-view buys. This is all combined from cable satellite and digital for a fight that only costed $59.99, despite Davis versus Garcia, which is not for a title, getting 1.2 million pay-per-view buys. The pay-per-view price almost $30 more than Haney Garcia at $84.99. During the pandemic, Ryan's mental health was starting to unfold, however, it was manageable. The loss to Davis made things a lot worse behind the scenes. Ryan would team up with a new trainer, and in his next fight, we wouldn't see improvements. However, we would see him try to utilize the shoulder roll defense, making it one of the ugliest examples in modern times. After a very tough to watch 8 rounds, Ryan would break through Duarte's defense and get him out of there in the final 20 seconds.
This foundation is gone, and that's a knockdown.
Haney, who is trying to break out into the mainstream and get more limelight, would fight a couple days later against newly crowned WBC junior welterweight champion Regis Prograis. Haney, who came in at an alarming 165 pounds on fight day, would have a dominant but lackluster show to pick up the title. Despite Haney's gait improving, we're talking about a pro-Haney crowd showing up. His viewership is not of what you expect from a undefeated, undisputed champ that has captured a second title and a second weight class. With Davis establishing he's part of the pay-per-view elite, if Haney were to get a fight with Davis, he must come to the table. However, Haney's father brought this to Twitter with offers that hold no weight, and Davis's handlers just shutting it down right there. One of the strategic keys in modern boxing to get out of fights you have no plans of taking: 1, ask for too much money. 2, act like you are the A side, who brings in the high majority of revenue, giving all sorts of demands. 3, put this all out in the open without ever going to a serious professional discussion at the negotiation table. This was simply a fake out, all when negotiations for a fight with Ryan was already underway. Garcia, who is popular as ever after the wake of the Davis fight, commands great viewership and has the popularity equally to Davis, if not more. Despite that, Ryan is part of a promotion that is in great relations of Haney's promotion. This is the easiest ride to getting what Haney wants, which is mainstream popularity, given the fact that there are some serious concerns in Ryan's camp and his mental health, which in the promotion leading to the fight, Ryan's behavior was erratic, spontaneous, and unhinged. Where it was looking very reminiscent to Mike Tyson's camp against Lennox Lewis.
In April, Tyson opened his training camp in Maui, Hawaii, and the few journalists who traveled there found Tyson's behavior as raw and unchecked as ever.
I may like more than other people. It's just who I am. I sacrificed so much of my life. Can I at least get laid? You know what I mean? I've been robbed of most of my money. Can I at least get a...
I think we can win this fight.
Are you talking out of turn?
No, I think we're all talking together.
This created huge concerns upon onlookers that this could be a huge mismatch on fight day, driving Ryan up to an 8-1 betting underdog. So the fight, Ryan would start off fast and win round 1.
Haney early. Garcia said he was going to knock him out. Caught him again. The power advantage, and he can take the chin. Caught him again. Now that Lenard shot though came at the end of it.
Once things settled, Haney began to score. However, Haney was headhunting a lot more than usual. He wasn't going to the body with the jab to set up the right or a counter right upstairs to keep Ryan at bay, which Haney was piling up points, but Ryan wasn't affected nor respected Haney's offense. Ryan would release the latest revision to the ugliest shoulder roll defense. Surprisingly, it was effective from avoiding anything upstairs. However, it left his body open, which led to many shots to the back. However, this time avoiding quite a bit of shots to the back of the head, unlike in the Oscar fight. Ironically, this form of the shoulder roll was much more effective than Andre Berto's imitation of Floyd's defense in his fight against Robert Guerrero and Jesus Soto Caras.
Please don't do the shoulder roll and cross your left and cross your right. Keep both of them
Ryan will get a step back into the fight, dropping Haney for the first time in his career.
Start out strong.
Out back.
Shortly after the knockdown, he would get a point deduction hitting on the break due to Haney's excessive holding. Ryan wouldn't do too much after the round. He will be back to his defensive state, mostly receiving shots to the back. Haney will bank in 2 rounds because of that, and in the 10th round, Ryan's offense will pick back up and Haney will get dropped for the second time in the fight, and Ryan will finish the round off big.
As frequently as it needs to happen. Oh, he's got it locked again! And down for a second time! It's David Haney! Nice shot by Ryan Garcia right now. Haney! Oh! Caught him again with that left hook! And now he's trying to finish him with the right!
Ryan this time would not let off, as technically he's down or tied on the scorecards. He would bank in another knockdown in the 11th and finish the 12th round strong while doing what I would call the Alabama shuffle to end the fight. Garcia would win by majority decision to give Haney his first loss, which this will later be switched to a no contest based on Ryan's test results and the events that followed. So given all the context here, do you think this was a cherry or not? Leave in the comments. Alright, for a little bonus, as I was putting this video together, a recent event of cherry picking had taken place. Jaime Munguia, one of the brightest prospects in 2018, had a rare opportunity to fight for a title and dethroned WBO champion Saddam Ali. Saddam, who was really supposed to fight Liam Smith, that fight ended up being canceled, and Jaime was put in place to fight Saddam. The 21-year-old would be successful against former champ Liam Smith, contender Brandon Cook, and contender Takeshi Inoue. There were big plans developing for Jaime, however, this would come to a sudden halt against Dennis Hogan. Jaime will receive a gift decision in his first fight back in Mexico after becoming champion. This fight exposed that Jaime was a lot greener than what was expected. He will end up moving up to middleweight after one last defense, and since he's relieved of duties as champion and less scrutiny from the general public and casual fans that would demand Jaime to do more and unify as champion, instead of holding the belt hostage and leading on the public, Jaime started back at square one, fighting guys he should have been fighting to gain experience and end up in title contention. However, we never ended up seeing him go on and fight for a title at middleweight despite earning the WBO Intercontinental title. It would have been easy politically getting a fight with Janibek, the now champion. However, there were other plans for Jaime. He will move up to super middle, got into title contention, and got into the Canelo sweepstakes. He will get his first loss on his resume against Canelo. A couple months after the defeat, he would have a comeback fight against undefeated contender and NABF champion Eric Bosnian, stopping him in the 10th round. Jaime's next fight will be his homecoming fight against unknown Frenchman Bruno Surace. Bruno had the attractive 25-0 record with an absolutely non-threatening 4 knockouts to go with it. Bruno's only knockouts were mostly at middleweight, where he makes weight at both weight classes, at middle and super middle. This fight being at super middle, where his power is the least effective, making it an easy homecoming fight on paper. Munguia would start the fight off as expected, knocking Bruno down in the 2nd round. Munguia is there to get hit with his style, and if Bruno can rebound, he would have a chance, and we would see that in the 4th round, where he would look a lot better. Jaime still getting the better of it with the heavier, flashier shots and punch count. With fatigue setting in the 6th round, Munguia would let his guard down and get a bit too comfortable, where Bruno would catch him with a shot he did not see, flooring him to the canvas. The count being a bit on the quick side, however, Jaime would not make the count. A massive upset win by Bruno, and homie in the white looked like he just lost a huge parlay. Outside of the Garcia fight, this is a huge runner-up for Ring Magazine Knockout of the Year. If you haven't seen part 1 of the series, you can say that was the part 1 to Wilder's reign. So it's 2018 now. Wilder's handlers have somehow managed to have Wilder avoid any threatening competition outside of the make-or-break Luis Ortiz fight. Meanwhile, IBF title holder Anthony Joshua does what Wilder wouldn't do and had a huge head start to do at that, which was unifying the division. Vladimir Klitschko was the first fighter to call out Wilder for the undisputed unification when Wilder became champion under the lousiest title grab in heavyweight championship boxing history. This was met with crickets by the US press. The most embarrassing excuse from Shelley Finkel why Wilder won't fight Klitschko. Given if the roles were reversed, Wilder was the champion with 3 belts and Klitschko was the newly crowned champion with 1 belt, and this excuse was given, Klitschko would have been roasted to no end by the American press. They call it a weak era, but when they finally have a guy that's champion, they now want to protect him at all costs. So due to the mess with the Fury versus Klitschko rematch, Joshua and Klitschko was set up for the vacant WBA title, making this a unification fight. Joshua wins, and to start off 2018, he would unify against Joseph Parker for the WBO title, where he would earn the decision, then go on to knock out Alexander Povetkin in the 7th round later that year. The main talks right now is a fight with Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. Wilder and his people want this fight in America. The thing is, Joshua is a clear A side despite not having the belt longer than Wilder. His short period of time, he built up a far better resume and has unified 3/4 of the division with record-breaking gate attendance and big TV viewership. The power and influence is across the Atlantic, as the US lost everything in 2007. So instead of making a compromise and making the biggest heavyweight unification since Lewis Holyfield in the UK, Wilder and his handlers came up with another plan to give them leverage at negotiation, and that was to go after the lineal champion Tyson Fury. Tyson, despite losing all his titles before his untimely retirement, was still the lineal champion because he beat the guy that beat the guy, which Fury was in the middle of coming back to the sport, slowly coming down from almost 400 pounds to his usual fighting shape. If Wilder beats Fury, he becomes a lineal champion, which technically that will make him above Joshua, and with the media on Wilder's side, this would be effective to sway public opinion that Joshua has to come to America to prove he is good against Wilder. By August, Fury had lost pretty much all the weight and successfully went 10 rounds against former contender Francisco Pianeta to set up the Wilder fight. Now keep in mind, Fury within a not so long period of time went from almost 400 pounds to a lean 258 pounds, on top of recovering from depression and horrific substance abuse. This should be the easiest, most conservative pathway to being on top of the weight class. However, it would not go that way. Fury would shock many. Wilder would score a knockdown in round 9 and almost get Fury out of there in round 12. Miraculously, Fury would not only make the count, but go toe-to-toe with Wilder, putting him on the back foot to end the fight off. Due to the knockdowns, the judges ruled it a draw on the scorecards, resulting in a massive failure on Wilder's end. However, this would be a miracle. Due to this meme that transcended into mainstream culture in the final round, where Fury does his best Undertaker impression, this drew a level of excitement and spotlight the heavyweight division has not seen in the States for a very long time. This would make the rematch huge, and if Wilder were to win, he would indefinitely have the A-side backing to leverage the Joshua fight to be in the States. While the rematch was being set up, another miracle would strike. Anthony Joshua will lose in a massive upset to Andy Ruiz. This elevates Wilder to number 1 in the rankings, Joshua to number 4, and Fury to number 3. Joshua will recapture the title at the end of the year. However, this puts Tyson Fury at number 2 and Wilder remains at number 1, which means their rematch will be for the ring and lineal heavyweight title, giving Wilder, if he were to win, the ultimate leverage in making the Joshua fight happen in America and under his own grounds. Wilder much more heavier than he was in the first fight. Fury, who also came in much more heavier as well. This will work to Fury's benefit, as he has more extra weight on his shots, and he could push that weight down on Wilder to tire himself out. Wilder, who is not used to a man that big and heavy pushing down on him and putting on all this unnecessary weight, which made him awfully slow in comparison. Wilder's mouth was wide open by the end of the second round, which is not a good sign at all compared to how fresh he was in the first fight. Deontay would get dropped the following round. Fury would end up finishing Wilder in the 7th round to become the WBC, ring, and lineal heavyweight champion. And this wouldn't stop here. However, I'll cover later in part 3. And on top of that, this is cherry picking gone wrong in boxing, part 2. Be sure to like, share, and if you're new, subscribe to the Patreon for patron-backed projects and early access. I'm Office Honcho, and I'm out.